Well, it is good to be back with you. I was out last week, as some of you know, and I hope you all had a very happy Labor Day weekend, a nice long weekend to relax and celebrate. I did. And I want to speak a word of gratitude to Reverend Karen Lewis, who came and spoke. And it's always delightful to watch someone grow through the practitioner and then through ministerial school and into licensing. And she's just completed that journey, and I was delighted that she was available to come and speak in our center. So thank you, Karen, for coming. And she started off our month with talking about the law of reflection and our journey of the power of intention. Wayne Dyer wrote a book about that. Ernest Holmes talks about that. It all relates to this thing we're calling our sacred covenant that we came up with in the process that we did the first part of August. And we have our sacred covenant prayer that was handed out a couple of weeks ago. It is up on our website if you would like to pray along with us on this. You are welcome to do so. It's down at the lower left-hand corner of the front page of the website where you can download that and do the prayer along with us every day in support of our intentions for the community. So I want to spend the balance of this month looking at this universal power of intention. What is it? What is this power in intention that we have? And I want to look at it particularly as it relates to our community and this co-creation process that we have experienced. But I want to start out with the way that we started out in the process, which was coming up with the word of purpose. Now, every week before I start creating a talk, I think, what is the purpose of the talk? What is it that Spirit wants to reveal through me this week? What's the purpose of this? And when I can get clear on the purpose, then the rest of the details come into play then. But there's a purpose for it, right? And we know when we have a purpose in our life, we have a clear understanding of direction, and things can bounce against that for decision making and so forth. So we went through creating our word of purpose, and it's a word that describes the quality of God that would be revealed through us at this moment, at this time in our community. And it was revealed through our group consciousness that our word of purpose is balance. Our word of purpose is balance at this point in our community. Now, our friends at dictionary.com say balance is an even distribution of weight, enabling someone or something to remain upright and steady, which goes right along with our first intention of growing in sustainable ways. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Now, I have to be honest with you, it was not my first choice. But you see, I wasn't leading this process. I got to be a participant. And as a participant, I got to work with everyone else in the room. And as we continued to work through the weekend, it became very clear to me that balance is the absolute perfect word of purpose, of power for our community at this time as to where we are right now. What also became very clear to me during that weekend was that this is not my church. It's God's. It's our community. Anybody that's ever started a business? Anybody that's had a child? You know that feeling of ownership. And as the vision came through me for Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living, ownership came through me of that. And for 3.5 years, that's pretty much been my perspective. It's not a bad perspective. And yet, this co-creation process awakened in me this new perspective of how holding a bigger vision for this community, letting go of my small vision of my community to our community, opens us up to greater evolution and expansion of who and what we are to be as Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living. So I had some wonderful personal growth over the weekend and some wonderful revelations, but again, realizing that myself holding a small vision was holding a small vision for this community. Surprising to me, for sure. Surprising for sure. But I want to thank each person that was at the co-creation process, that took the time to be in the room, to be a part of it. For those who are doing the Sacred Covenant prayer, to anchor those intentions. We know what we focus on expands in our life, and we know that as we use this power of intention, that these things will manifest throughout our community. So balance, our word of purpose, our word of power. And then right below that was a vision statement that was open to all and inspiring to everyone. Open to all and inspiring to everyone. That came forward through a long, lengthy, deep conversation around the idea of diversity in our community. We were seeking more young people. Anybody under 50 in the room? Thank Richard, 49. But this was the conversation that we had, but where we finally were able to elevate that to unconsciousness was that we welcome all. We welcome all. We don't need to limit who we are attracting into our community to specific diverse groups. We're open to all and welcoming to all. So when we elevated that into that higher consciousness of spirit, what emerged is open to all and inspiring to everyone. Because that's what science of mind teaching is, right? That's what the science of mind teaching is. So what do these words mean to you? Well, come Wednesday night and let's talk about that. Come Wednesday night and let's talk about that. Because today what we're going to talk about is how these relate to our individual lives. Because we know that it starts within, right? Successful living from the inside out. All of this starts within us. That's why when we read these intentions, you will see that they start out, I am. It doesn't say we are, Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living is. It says I am. So we're going to be looking at these intentions from that perspective of how they relate to us as individuals. Where is your life in balance? Where do you feel your Om, your Zen? Where is it not so much in balance? Where is it not so much in balance? Are you open to all? Are you inspiring to everyone you meet? Do you live, move, and have your being in spirit and spiritual principle in this teaching? I'm going to say, yeah, most of us do, most of the time. We're pretty balanced. If you've been around this teaching for a while, you've learned some tools and some practices and some principles and things. You're pretty balanced. But life has a way of showing up, doesn't it? Once in a while, we get those curveballs, things from out of the blue that just tip our scales a little bit, get us a little out of balance. The Spirit always shows up to give me an example during the week that I can share with you on Sunday mornings. Friday afternoon, I'm running late, and I go to the bank to make our weekly deposit, which I'm also running a little late on. And I walk in, and there's a line. There's one teller. You know how your mind starts going. I'm supposed to be meeting someone for dinner, and I'm obviously going to be late for that too. Why is there only one teller? It's Friday afternoon. Friday afternoons are always busy. There's only one teller. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And this one's chatty. Oh good, this teller's chatty, right? How's your day been so far? And the guy says, not so good. And I immediately went into observer mind. The part of me that was having the stress and the anxiety and the feelings of, oh my gosh, this is the horrible thing, and what's all of those feelings that I could feel, and then that observer part of me that went, oh, what a very kind young man to ask in such a compassionate way, how was your day? And then he said, if you don't mind me asking, would you care to share what happened? My anxiety went up again. But my compassion went up more. And I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? And so I took a breath. And I went within. And I stilled myself. And I stepped into faith. I stepped into principle. I stepped into what I know to be the truth. And I just allowed it to unfold. And I sent a little text to my friend and said, I'm going to be late for dinner. No worries, right? And then here comes another teller. Hi, could I help you? And everything worked out just fine. But the stress, the anxiety that I felt in that moment, that I allowed myself to get out of balance because of what was happening around me. You ever been there? Yeah. The grocery store, the lady with the pocket full of coupons, right? Oh my gosh, I got in the wrong line again, right? Yeah, we all have those experiences. The gas station, what are they doing? Why can't they move their car when they go inside the convenience store to get their soda pop? All those little things that can push our buttons, right? They can push our buttons and get us out of balance. Thomas Merton, the author, he tells us that anxiety is the mark of spiritual insecurity. Ouch! Really? It's like, thanks! Yogananda. So long as we believe in our heart of hearts that our capacity is limited and we grow anxious and unhappy, we are lacking in faith. Only one who trusts in God has no right to be anxious about anything. That kind of heals that Merton thing, doesn't it? It's true. When we can get that perspective of Yogananda, when we trust in God, there's no reason to be anxious. Because we know that whatever is happening for our good. Right? It's happening for our good. Folding in the divine right order. And our anxiety, those were my thoughts. Nobody was doing anything to me. I was doing it to me. I was creating my own misery, my own suffering. And being good religious scientists, like I say, I think we all stay in balance most of the time, but also we're good humans, so I know we can get out of whack. And what I realized in hearing that teller's question and being in those two minds, that, again, that stress that I was feeling was my own self-inflicted tardiness, my own lack of productivity in my day because of the choices that I had made, the consequences that I was now suffering of those choices that I had made. Cause and effect right there, right? But it was so easy to blame somebody else. It was so easy to blame somebody else. I could blame Chase Bank, right? They just don't have enough people. But it wasn't them. It was all right here. It was all right here is where it was. So how does this idea of balance serve you in your life? How does the idea of balance serve you, work in your life? We hear about burnout, stress, anxiety. It's almost epidemic, isn't it? It's almost epidemic in society, in the stresses that people are under. There's so much activity and so things come at us so fast. We've got such instant communication. We're always on our phones and connected, and we've always got information coming at us. We hardly have time to process it, and it can create anxiety and stress in us. How can we use our tools? How can we use our choices? Maybe a simple breathing exercise. Maybe like I did, close your eyes for a moment and just go within and find that centered place within us. Maybe it's a mantra. Maybe it's a mantra that you have, a few simple words that just bring you back to that calm, centered place of the truth of who you really are. What is your path to return to yourself? Remember the story of the prodigal son? Where the son goes off, and it says he went to the far country, but then he came to himself, and he went back home to the Father and was welcomed and received. Today we might call that coming to our senses. Returning to wholeness. I came to my senses in the bank teller line. How do you come to your senses? How do you come to your senses? For our center, we believe in this co-creating our sacred covenants and the 6 intentions is how we will come to greater wholeness in our community. We believe that that is the path that is going to lead us to the next level. It's never ending, of course, right? But it'll lead us to the next level, taking these next steps. And the co-creation process has sometimes gotten a bad reputation for being utilized in spiritual communities that are hurt, broken, need healing, there's been some damage created perhaps by a previous minister. Perhaps there's been financial impropriety going on, something like that. That is a lot of times how it's used. We're not broken. We weren't looking for that. We were simply looking to step into greater co-creativity with the divine, for the greater unfolding of who and what we are as community. We are being stirred up right now for greater evolution and greater expansion. If you remember, I think it was in January, we had a community meeting, and what came forward was, hey, growth committee. We want a growth committee. We want to grow. And I consistently hear, why don't we have more people showing up? Why don't we get our message out there? So we're being stirred up for that. And this co-creation process is the way that Spirit can act through us. Can act through us. Spirit can do for us what Spirit does through us, right? So that's what we're doing. As we moved through the weekend, it became evident that we've built a great foundation in this community. In 3.5 years. We've done well. We've got a pretty good thing going on here. Yes? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We're doing a lot of things right. And what we discovered is we're doing some things that need some work, that are out of balance. Some things that are out of balance need our attention and intention. And that's our sacred covenant. The 6 most powerful ideas that turned into our intentions from that amazing process that we went through for a day and a half. And I really wish that everybody could have attended. I really do. But we were limited to 12. And the reason being is because of the depth of the work that was done and the conversation levels that needed to occur, more people would have taken 2 weeks. So we had to limit it to 12. And it was a deep process of determining who those 12 would be to be a part of that. People that have demonstrated leadership in the community to date. People who have demonstrated a willingness to grow with the community in the future. People who I believe that will be with us long term in the community to see it grow and continue. So we had a very powerful group that came. As I said, I wish everyone could have been there with us, but you're all welcome to come on Wednesday evenings to go deeper into this experience. So I hope you can join us for that. So our first intention is to grow in sustainable ways. And again, Wednesday night is the time we'll dive into that. But we just completed our series last month on building our field of dreams. Remember? Mary Morrissey, building our field of dreams. And we learned about the process of dream building. And growing anything requires time, attention, nurturing, pruning. It requires attention, doesn't it? And I look at the weekend that we went through as that clearing the field. What's working? What's not? Clearing the field and preparing the soil. We also selected our 6 seeds. And we have those seeds in our hands now. And as community, we're approaching the growing season. We're approaching the planting and the growing season. And that's where we are with this. And we now each need to listen to the voice within that guides us always. What is mine to do in this intention work? What is mine to do in growing this center, this garden, this place called Scottsdale CSL? Ernest Holmes, we just completed The Creative Mind and Success. His very first book he ever wrote in 1919. I think we determined he was, 32 years old, Lynn? I think he was 32 years old when he wrote that. So I have his young picture up there for this. He says, nothing in the universe ever stops. Nothing in the universe ever stops. Everything is built on a boundless basis, drawn from a limitless source, and comes forth from an infinite sea of unmanifest life. Have you noticed that? From our planet constantly spinning to the changing of the seasons, our bodies, everything is in constant motion. Everything is in constant motion. And that's what's happening here as well. We are being stirred and we are in motion as well. It's a very exciting time. It's a very exciting time. So going to the sustainability piece of this, how are you growing in sustainable ways in your life? How are you growing in sustainable ways in your life? What's unsustainable? What is unsustainable in your life today? Is it how you choose to eat? Is it your hours or the scheduled activities that you keep? Is it your spending, your financial good? Is there conflict? Are there control issues? What is not sustainable to continue in your life that will not nurture you? Sometimes we find that we're very good at treating and manifesting, and all of this good comes to us, and then we panic because it feels like it's too much to handle. It feels like it's too much to handle. And I go back to Ernest Holmes' word, embody. He overused it, and I am too, because it's such a good word, because it means to step into, put on that which we seek to become, that which we seek to experience. Once we have done that, once we have grown our consciousness, it's very easy for the law of attraction to bring to us that which we are seeking, but it is also very comfortable to receive it. And we're prepared. We have set the table for it. We are ready to receive that into our life. Our conscious acceptance must precede our physical acceptance, or we will feel overwhelmed when the manifestation takes form. Our conscious acceptance must precede our physical acceptance. So growing in sustainable ways is a balanced, evolving, happy life. That's personally, professionally, and spiritually in this community. So let's create together and allow Spirit to work through us, proving these principles in our lives. Because that's what it's about, isn't it? I mean, we can stand up here and talk about principle all day long, but if you haven't used them and proven them in your life, it doesn't mean anything. That's one of the things that I really like about our teaching, is that we can walk the talk. We can prove it out in our life. So let's look at our practicing the principles this week and see some ways that we might be able to take this home with us and implement and use this in our life. The first one is balance. The first one is balance. Discover your path back to wholeness. What is your go-to tool when the teller line is long and the teller is chatty, or the people have coupons in front of you at the grocery line? What is your path back to wholeness, back to center? Find what that might be. If it's a breathing technique, a mantra, or as Wayne Dyer said in his book, The Power of Intention, our natural state is joy. Think of children. Our natural state is joy. We learn all this other stuff. He says, and we need to remind ourselves as frequently as necessary, I come from peace and joy. I choose to stay in harmony with that from which I am created. I choose to stay in harmony. Number 2, remain open and inspiring to all. If we really believe that God is all there is and that we are all each individualized manifestations of that one, when we are not open to someone, when we cut someone off just because they're annoying or whatever, we're restricting that flow. We're cutting ourselves off from spirit, aren't we? It's a lot like cholesterol in our body that clogs our arteries and gums up the system. That resistance gums up the flow of spirit. That resistance gums up the flow. So rather than shutting someone down or out of your life, ask, wow, how could I be inspiring to them? How can I inspire them today instead? Number 3, are you growing in sustainable ways in your life? Are you growing in sustainable ways? Are you nourishing your body, mind, and spirit? Are you giving yourself the self-care that you need? Are you giving yourself the self-care that you need in order to grow your life in sustainable ways? I invite you this week to consciously take an action towards your own self-care. You know how little kids get a timeout when they need to go think about something? Give yourself an adult timeout. Turn off the computer. Turn off the phone. Talk to your spouse, your friends. Make a new friend. Find some joy. Do something nice for yourself. After I went to dinner with my friend on Friday night, I was walking through the restaurant and noticed a table. It was a family of, I don't know, it was probably 6 of them. But the one that I noticed was the 10-year-old girl who was bent over almost at a 45-degree angle with her face almost in her plate because she had her phone in her lap playing a game and was totally disconnected from the rest of the family. And I noticed it because of her posture and so forth. But it was interesting that the rest of the family was talking, but she wasn't involved. Are we growing in sustainable ways? Are we growing in sustainable ways? So as part of our sacred covenant, I invite you to join me, our board of trustees, our practitioners, the 12 that were in the co-creation, and we as community together can plant these seeds of intention for Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living. So I'm going to invite you to affirm them with me now. We have a slide. We'll just repeat them together, and you can get a sense of what these are. And if you'd like to download the entire prayer, this is basically the realization statement within the prayer. The whole thing is again on our website. Please join me. I am growing in sustainable ways. I am informing, inviting, educating, and empowering. I am executing effective visitor and congregant retention. I cultivating a culture of fellowship and participation. I am creating an exceptional live music ministry. I am being fully supported and abundantly prospered in the fulfillment of these intentions. So it is. So that's where we're headed. Feel good? Yeah. If you're interested in a more active role in our community, I do invite you to please join us Wednesday, 6:45 to 8:45. We're probably in the room across the hall, but we will be here. Again, everyone is invited to come and participate in that. I want to close us out today with a last quote from Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching, the author of the Science of Mind text from which we teach. And at the end of the first half of the textbook, he has his final conclusion of the Science of Mind before he moves into all the metaphysical teachings of the Bible that he gives us. And this quote says, "What the world needs is spiritual conviction followed by spiritual experience. I would rather see a student of this science prove its principle than to have him or her repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. It is far easier to teach the truth than it is to practice it. So I would invite you to join us as we practice these principles of the science of mind and spirit. So it is. So I want to thank you for being with us today. Again, if it's your first time with us, we welcome you on your path, on your journey. We hope you have found us to your liking. Our visitor welcome table has another gift for you. If you would stop by there on your way out, they have another little token of our appreciation for you taking the time to come and visit with our community today. We do appreciate that. So I would invite you, if you would, to join me with an affirmative prayer. Let us pray. As we go within, we recognize that there is one power, one presence, one life. And that life is God. It is source, it is essence, it is presence. It is whatever name we call it. It is the infinite. And we know that all of that is here now present in, through, and as each and every one of us. For we are individualized expressions of it, yet in that one, in that wholeness of that one, inseparable in any way. We are spirit in form, in expression. And so as I recognize this unity, I speak my word for and about each one of us here today. As we have come together by divine appointment, there are no accidents. We're all here for an absolute perfect reason and intention this day, to be in community together. As we recognize that we are on the threshold of an infinite possibility, of a very cleared field of infinite possibilities, ready for the planting of seeds which we have co-created together through the mind of God. So in this moment, I bless each one of these seeds, and I bless each one of the planters. I bless each one of the tenders. I bless each one of those of us who will nurture and hold this light for this community, for these seeds, for this growth, for this expansion. And we welcome in this moment in consciousness all of those throughout the city of Scottsdale and beyond who are seeking this teaching, who are seeking the truth, who are seeking a closer walk and understanding of the divinity of their own inherent wholeness, of the truth of life, of who and what they are. We welcome them. We make our space welcome. And for anyone that has anything on their heart today that they would be seeking prayer for, we lift that up into this consciousness of the wholeness and the awareness of love that we are, knowing that whatever needs to be revealed is done so. If it needs to be healed, if there's an answer, if there's greater financial flow that is needed in this moment, that whatever the restriction may be, that channel is now opened and Spirit is flowing fully, wholly through each and every one. And how grateful I am for this knowing. How very grateful I am for this teaching, this truth, and the manifestation of this prayer. For I know that the word spoken is the word made manifest. This is already done in the mind of God. It would not be coming forward through us were it not. We simply await its manifestation through each and every one of us now. And we affirm this together. And so it is.